Yeah, pretty beautiful, right? When I originally saw this scene, I had to learn how it was done. So I reached out to the very talented Math, and he's been kind enough to give all of us a 15-minute breakdown of his Swedish Highland scene. Now, this is just a breakdown, so if you really want to learn how to create environments like this, you can check out my 2 courses where you'll learn everything you'll need to know about creating beautiful environments, like the one you see on your screen here, and how to create anime and stylized textures procedurally without ever having to pick up a brush. You get a special discount when you get both courses, so I'll leave a link in the description for those. Now, without any further ado, let's just get right into the video.
Hello everyone, my name is Matt Routhuizen. Today I'll be showing you the process behind my stylized environment, Swedish Highlands. With this project I wanted to mainly focus on the composition and the general feel and atmosphere of the place and put less emphasis on the individual assets. I'll start off by showing you what my idea behind the composition is, and then give you some insights on how I went about doing this. After this I'll also go into a bit more detail on the individual parts, like the grass and the birds, how I increased the sense of depth, my thought process when creating assets, and finally how I made all of it come together in a short video using Sequencer. Starting with the composition. I'm using the layering in the rocks that have a strong directionality to them to guide the viewer to the focal point. The focal point in this case is the waterfall. The waterfall itself, at least in the video, is also moving. Moving elements in a more static environment also attract the viewer to that area. I'm also using stuff like the branches of the tree, the moose looking in that direction, the river that's flowing towards the focal point, and the birds flying in a V formation. These things all work together to guide the viewer to the focal point. Finally, I'm also using these elements in the foreground, like a tree on the right and the rocks to the left, to frame the composition. Placing these elements in the foreground and shadow also helps push the sense of depth. I like to start off by placing a camera quite early on. Then by adding a second viewport and using this viewport to pilot that camera, you can quickly refer back to the camera angle that you want to focus on. Once you think you got the camera position down, you can right-click the camera actor, go to Transform and hit Lock Actor Movement to avoid moving the camera on accident. This is also nice because it allows you to refer back to the original angle and take screenshots. This makes it super easy and quick to judge if your changes were improvements or if it actually made it worse. Being able to judge your own process is important, as it makes it obvious if you, for example, wasted too much time on something that didn't really affect the end result. It happens to me all the time that I look back at an older screenshot and I realize that the changes that I made did not help in achieving the look I was going for. So I'll tell you a little bit about the foliage. So for the grass, I set up a pretty basic foliage shader, and there's plenty of tutorials online on how you can set up a foliage shader for Unreal. So I won't go into it too deeply, but I did want to show on how I did these gusts of wind that you can see going through the grass. So in the material, I'm using this texture, which is just like a black and white texture. So using this pattern, this texture is moving in world space. And then I'm using it as a mask to mask a more intense version of this simple grass wind, which is a Unreal function that you can find by searching for it. And I'm putting it into this world position offset. And I'm also using the same output from the texture to mask in a higher specular value, which kind of gives us these the lighter color as well. So basically it makes it a bit more reflective in a way. Then another thing that I did is by using a gradient, which in this case I got from this texture coordinate, multiplying that over the wind intensity. And what this does, this ensures that the bottom of the grass is grounded, like anchored to the floor, and only the top is moving in the wind. And in this case, this works because the grass I'm using is using the entire UV space, so from 0 to 1. Another way you could do this is instead of using a gradient for this, maybe you have multiple foliage assets on the same texture map. In that case, you can also put this gradient in the vertex color of the mesh. And you would do that in Blender or Maya, for example. And then in the material editor, you can search for vertex color. And you can just pick the color that you used and use that instead of the mask. And then I'm also using the same gradient with a dither to get this fade from top to bottom. You don't see it here, but you can enable it. So it doesn't look too great in the viewport here, but you'll see that in the noisiness of the entire environment, with the grass blades moving and overlapping, you don't really see this pixely effect. And instead it just kind of feels a bit more soft. It doesn't intersect with the ground too harshly. So there's a few things that I did to increase the sense of depth when you look into the scene. So there's of course, there's the fog, like you would basically always add to a scene to make things further away feel a bit further away because they're pushed back by this lighter color. But there's another thing that I added as well, which is these fog cards basically. So they're meshes with fog on it. And it's a super basic material with some banners on it to give the impression of the moving fog, masked out by this texture, which is just some mist that I painted in Photoshop. So none of this is too special, but it's a nice thing you can do if you are careful about how you place them. You can create this layering effect in your scene and increase the sense of depth even more. And also, if you place them, for example, here, where these objects are sticking out of the ground, you just make their silhouette a bit more clear, which again increases this idea of this layering. So there's multiple ones here. And one thing that I did in the shader that's quite easy to implement as well, is I'm using the red vertex color channel that I'm multiplying over the emissive, because in this case all of this is emissive. An additive shader is a little bit cheaper than a transparent one. So if you want something that's white, that's supposed to make it lighter, like a mist or a fog, using an additive one can often be cheaper. By using this vertex color that I showed earlier, you can kind of tweak the intensity of this fog after the fact. So we're going to this mesh painting edit mode. We're going into painting and select color. So if you now put the red to 0, so which means in the shader a value of 0 is multiplied over the end result, and we just hit fill, you see you can't see it anymore. But you can also, for example, put it to 0.5, fill, and now it's very faint. You can put it back to 1, and now it's a bit more clear. And this way you keep some fine control over the intensity of this fog. And you can use this in basically any transparent mesh that you have. I wanted to have a flock of geese fly over in the sky, and I was looking for a cheap and simple way to do it. So having these all animated individually in a traditional way would be too expensive and not really worth it. So in this case, I created this material. So this is just a goose with its wings flapping. His body is fairly static and his head is completely static. So most of this is done by utilizing the 3 vertex color channels, red, green, and blue. So in Maya, I masked out certain areas of his body using these different colors. So we're going to mesh display, paint vertex color tool. You can apply a color to a vertex, and this you can then use in the shader. The one thing you need to make sure of in order for this to work correctly, you need to actually enable this to be imported. So in the mesh tab, like in the mesh window, you can search for vertex and you just put vertex color option to replace. And this will make sure that it actually imports the vertex color from the mesh. And then you can use it in the shader. So in my case, I just used the sine wave to push the vertices up and down in the wing. Then by this body that's masked out, I let it move with the wings a little bit, but not so much. And then the area that I masked out with the head, I completely masked out the influence from the sine wave. And this all goes into the world position offset. And then one more thing I did, because all these geese are using the same material, is in order to prevent them from all flapping their wings at the same time, I'm using the per instance random node. And what this does is that every instance of the mesh, this node outputs a value between 0 and 1. You just need to make sure that your meshes are actually instanced. So in order to do this, I created a blueprint. And in this blueprint, I added a instance static mesh component. And by going down here, you can add more instances of that mesh. And this way, the shader knows that every mesh is another instance. So then in every instance of this mesh, the material outputs a random value, or this node outputs a random value between 0 and 1. This is added at the top of the time, and what this does, it gives this sine wave and a little bit of an offset for each goose. And this way we can have entire flocks of goose all flapping their wings at a different interval, but they're all using the same material. So another thing I wanted to touch on are the rocks. So there's quite a lot of tutorials online on how you can sculpt a more stylized rock. So I won't go into the details on how to actually do this. But I did want to give you some general tips on how you can think about creating the rocks and create a more unique asset instead of just a sphere using the trim brushes, and that way you're creating a rock. So this would be like a fairly basic rock you can just scatter around, pretty much the way you've seen it done many times. But how my process kind of is like by starting first with a very rough blockout in the engine, using just some cubes, and then using this blockout to kind of inform what kind of assets or what kind of rocks you need for the environment. For example, in my case, this was the rock, and this had the strong lines in it that I wanted to use in the composition. So by starting out with the blockout in the engine first, and then creating assets that fit your specific needs for that specific environment, that way you can create some more unique assets. So I'll explain very roughly what my idea behind this is and why I created like this. So first of all, I did keep it quite rough. It's not a super beautiful sculpt or anything. But like I said at the beginning of the video, for me it was all about the general composition. I didn't want to waste too much time on the creation of the unique assets. So this rock obviously has the strong horizontal lines to use in the composition. Then the way I also like to think about when creating a rock is to have one side super detailed like this one, and one side a lot less detail. And this way, when you're building your environment, it gives you a lot more options. So you won't need to create, more detailed rocks and less detailed rocks. In order to save some time, you can make your one rock like multi-purpose. So the same goes for this one. So this one is kind of similar to the other one in the sense that it has a very strong direction in it. So it's kind of pointing toward that direction, which is useful in the type of environment it was creating. It has a more simple side, and it has a bit more detailed side. And this way you can create rocks that are extra useful to you, and you don't need to create a lot of them. You can see how I use them. So the pointy one I just showed, I use them in this way to really kind of point to the focal point of the entire composition. Same for this one. And you can really see that every rock is placed in a way to kind of help the composition. And this is the general tip that I wanted to give you is when placing assets, really think about where do you want the viewer to look at, and can this asset that I'm placing help in this, or at the very least place it in a way that it doesn't work against you. So the final thing I wanted to talk about is how I made the video. So I knew from the start that I wanted a short video, like 15-20 seconds, to showcase the environment, with the kind of the sole purpose to really set the mood that I was going for, which I thought was too hard with just pictures. It wasn't really possible with just pictures. So I even added some sound at the very end, but also, doing some tricks to make the space feel even bigger. And just overall seeing the grass in motion, seeing the waterfall, it all helps kind of bind it together. So in my case, I have some cameras here. And the reason I place these cameras is very easy to go back to them and take the same screenshots you did before. So I use this one for animating the short video. So I created a simple cinematic, or a sequence, I should say. And in this sequence, I just animate a bunch of stuff. So for example, the animation of the moose is triggered via the sequence. So the idea was in the sound you hear the geese flying over, the moose looks up and he follows, in the animation he follows the goose or the geese. So this animation was made in Maya and then just imported. And all the rest was just animated using Sequencer. So one of the most important things, or all the things that I did that really sells the depth of the environment, is that the camera is moving forward in the video, as you can see here. But at the same time, I'm also adjusting the focal length. And what this basically does, This is an effect that's used quite often, so it's nothing that I came up with or anything. But what this does, even though the camera is moving forward, you can keep certain things in a distance at the same place, or even push them farther away, as you can see that's going on here. So if I go through the video very quickly, the effect is super obvious. And then when the video plays in real time, it's a lot more subtle. So my idea behind this is I wanted to get this feeling of, you're leaving the forest and you're stepping into this open area, and this area opens up in front of you. This was the feeling I was going for. And then all the other elements, for example, the clouds are also moving using this animation. It's just all done animating the transforms. You have the flock of birds, so I just added the blueprints in here and then moved them through the sky. So that's basically it. All the rest of the movement just comes from the shaders that are doing its thing, and the VFX here of the waterfall going down. So this is how I ended up with the end result. I hope you learned something. I know I skipped over a lot of things, but my goal was to give you an idea of my general thought process. There's already so much content online explaining how to create assets and how to use tools, so I wanted to give you a slightly different take that hopefully gives you some new insights. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me on Artstation or Instagram, and I would be happy to answer them. Thanks a lot for watching.